We've been farming and stuff, but we had this swather torn apart. This is the 416 Durabine header, and so we got it all tore apart because we're going to be redoing all the spacers and drive lines that are in between here. They don't necessarily need it, but some of these are getting kind of thin. I don't like letting them get that thing so they get full of dirt. There's no oil in here, but then also as we pull these off, if there is oil in one, you got to seal out on your module. So we'll replace a module if we end up finding one that's leaking. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and replace all the spacers, all the drive shafts, and the little spring washers that are in the wave washers that are in between each end of the drive shaft to keep it centered up. And then we're putting new skid shoes underneath each module because these ones, they just get so thin. You got to make sure to keep an eye on them because if they wear in half, the front piece will fall out, this back piece will catch in the dirt, and it'll fold it underneath itself and bend the hell out of the mounting on the back. So we just might make sure we keep them nice and new, or try to keep them as new as possible. Make sure we don't let them get too thin because you don't like to have that war. But so if you look on the ground, you can see we've got this whole thing pulled apart. We got all the bolts broke loose in between each module so we can start sliding them down and replacing everything in between. And what we do is we start from the center two modules, and we'll slide it and start replacing them from the outside or from the inside out as we go. So that's the one reason why this is what sets New Holland apart from all the other manufacturers. You can replace any part of the cutter bar at any time you want in just a matter of a couple hours of downtime. So that's nice. But if you come in here, see the big stack of parts we got for our swappers. We got new strippers. We got new top caps for each individual pod. All new turtle shells with the quick change. We go through a lot of these, and when we're in dirt and sand and stuff, we'll go through sometimes. Most every year is 2 sets a year, and they're pretty good cost. I mean, that's basically 90% of our swather cost is just having to put new turtle shells and whatnot because the sand and stuff is so abrasive. It just wears out the quick change stuff and the lifters and whatnot. These are the spacers that go in between every module. New 80 series chain. End caps, cages, and skid shoes. And these are what the shafts look like in between each module. So, and then the little wave washers, they're kind of cool looking. These little guys, basically this looks like a little spring, and it keeps that thing centered, keeps that shaft centered in between each one of those deals. And we got the little end skid shoes too for the ends of the swather. We replaced those as well. So we're ready to rock and roll. So we've been at this for about an hour now. I figured I'd have one split to show you guys kind of how to put these together and what's in between there. This is something, I don't do this every year, just so everyone knows this isn't something that you have to do every year. I've ran this swather for 4 years now, and these shafts, the swather's got about 2,000 hours on it, and these shafts are in really good shape still. So I don't have to replace these. I mean, there's no, well, get the dirt off there, but there's no play back and forth in that. But given the fact that we're going this far into this machine, I'm putting new shafts in it. These aren't that expensive to do. So the only reason I'm really doing this is because these spacers are getting so thin, they're about to wear through. And I know I probably wouldn't be able to get through another season without having some little holes start to wear into these, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do them now. But basically what happens, you loosen these bolts up and you can slide this cutter bar apart. And we went ahead and we slid it apart. We did that side, and then we did the center where it's got 2 holding bolts in there. We put that one in, and when you put these in, like some of these were worn out and I didn't get new bolts for this, but I have bolts in my bolt bin, but they're a little long. So we're just gonna cut that down. That's all the way tight. We're just gonna take cut off wheel and cut that flush so that's not sticking up and hanging up on anything. So we got that put in, but what you do is basically you take your module, and when you slide that apart, it's gonna have these wave washers on here, and you want to make sure that that wave washer comes out of the module on both sides before you put this all back together. If it don't, you got to get a magnet and stick into the end of the module and get the wave washer out. But all of them have been coming out really good. So basically how you do it, you get that all put in, you put your wave washers on both sides, slide it all together, get your spacer put in there, and then this module just slides on. You might have to move this just a little to get it to. That's gonna make a liar out of me. It's going smooth. Work that side just a little second. And then that just slides together. And then we take these bolts, and these kind of got some wear on them, so we just reuse the washers and we got new bolts, and then we Loctite. We put Loctite on these when we put them back in. To keep them from coming out, give them a good reef job. But basically it's pretty simple. I mean, we haven't been at this for very long, and we got over half the header basically done. So it's pretty simple to do this, and it's not really that expensive. The pods, when we replace our turtle shells, we buy them complete with the lifters and the quick change stuff all on them, because they get wiped out. As you can tell, they get wiped out. We do that twice a year, and the cost for those turtle shells is probably, one set of those turtle shells is about the same cost as all these spacers, all the wave washers, all the bolts, all the drive shafts in between. And those cost more than all of this that we're doing here. So I've done this once in 4 years, so cost really isn't that bad, and anyone can do it. You don't have to send it to a dealer to have them completely strip your cutter bar apart and rebuild a whole one-piece cutter bar. So that's nice. You can do this at any time. And we're in a lot of dirt, we're in a lot of sand in different areas, so that's why these wear out so bad. But just normal grass, hay, stuff that don't have dirt, shit, you'd never do this probably in the life of the swather. So it's pretty simple, but we figured we'd show you guys how they slide apart. But it's really simple and easy to replace this kind of stuff. So perfect. Got everything cleaned up and put together here. Put a new module on this one. Roughly about 2 hours. Pull this bar apart and do all that, and then I had to clean all the mud out from underneath everything. Had a big old pile of mud under it, but not too bad. Putting new strippers on for the cages on the end there. Got to do the other one on the other end yet, but not too bad. Pretty easy job, really.